What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. I am Love Coach Scott Katamas, and welcome to the Wednesday night edition of The Awakening World. Did you know that before you were even born, you received a genetic download of the trauma of your ancestors going back as far as 7 generations? That's about 350 people that were carrying their trauma. It's part of epigenetics. And learning how to work with epigenetics, which is a very new science and a very new understanding, is huge. And we have with us tonight 3 incredible experts who've been studying it and helping people work with their epigenetics. So it's going to be a really amazing and a very important show. So pull up a chair, get ready to maybe take some notes, get ready to learn about this incredible new science. Now, before I do that, though, I do want to welcome all of you who are watching on the different Facebook pages. And tonight is the first night of our newest partnership. We are now working with Humanity's Team, originally founded by Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God books, and my good buddy, Steve Farrell. And we're going to be on Humanity's Team through their platform on all of our shows from now on. So welcome those of you watching on Humanity's Team. And of course, welcome everybody watching on Facebook or maybe on Ellen Steinfeld's YouTube channel. And I want to invite you to actually come and join the Global Peace Tribe. It's really easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com. You can learn all about the different shows that we do. And then click register for the new season. And this will take you to our registration page. We do 3 or 4 shows every week with amazing co-hosts, important topics that are informational, inspirational. For example, here's the show we're doing tonight, Understanding Epigenetics While Honoring Our Ancestors. That's a really important part to this, at least from my point of view. And then on Saturday night, we're going to be celebrating this weekend, but Saturday night and Sunday is kind of a special weekend. We're celebrating 3 full years of doing Global Peace Tribe shows. So we've got a lot of our favorite luminaries coming on, a lot of our favorite co-hosts will be with us. So it's going to be kind of a special and unique show. So join us. And when you join, you're going to get the Zoom room links to all of our shows for the next 3 months. Again, we do 3 or 4 shows every week. And the thing about that is you get to then come into the Zoom room where you can interact more directly with all of us. And we always put a lot of links into the chat box while we're talking. You're going to learn how to get more information from Geraldine Orozco or Carri Bailey or Moorea or Omashar. And so coming into the Zoom room is the way to really interact with us. And you can do that just by registering and joining the Global Peace Tribe. All right. Well, you knew her previously as Krista. She is now Moorea Love. She is bringing more love into our world. One of our favorite co-hosts, and somebody who is really turning me on to a greater understanding of epigenetics. Welcome, Moorea.
Thank you so much, Scott, and welcome everyone. And I'm just so excited to be here to bring this topic. And I know it's been something that, Scott, you and I have talked about for quite some time now. And you have been such an incredible fan of mine and just cheering me on to really bring my gifts and offerings to the world. And so I just want to thank you, in front of our entire tribe, because you were just in the spirit of collaboration and helping all of us rise into our light, into the purpose and the services and gifts that we're here to bring to the world, to help humanity rise to, the awakening world, right? So I'm so excited to be here because my journey around epigenetics started, 5 or 6 years ago. And I had my own health scares that brought me to looking for alternative solutions out of the Western medical system. And through that, I found epigenetics, and that there's another piece to the puzzle that we can utilize to identify things that can impact our health in the most positive way for us to have, more vitality, more energy, better sleep, more productivity, and, just more of what we're here to be, to be limitless, to be the divine human that we're here to be. And we do that through all these beautiful tools that we have now, thanks to epigenetics. And, one of my greatest teachers has been Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm sure many of you have heard of him, the grandfather of epigenetics, over 30 years ago, identifying in a lab that we aren't predestined by our DNA, that lifestyle factors, the thoughts we think, the food we eat, the air we breathe, all these different things affect our genetic expression and who we are and how we express. And so we get the opportunity to use this tool to turn on and turn off these genes for optimal expression. And through that, my health has certainly been improved in a huge way. But I also took a much deeper dive into spiritual epigenetics, the part about what we're bringing tonight about how our ancestry and how what those before us in our lineage experienced, achieved, is part of who we are and what's expressing in our DNA. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's all here for us to say, wow, in this lifetime, it gets to be something that, I choose to say it starts with me, and I'm going to make a shift in my lineage by saying yes to my highest expression. So that's what we're going to dive really deep in tonight. And I'm so excited to be accompanied by Carri Bailey, one of my dearest friends, who's just really an expert in this area as an epigenetic health coach. We're both certified through Apiron Zoe, which means limitless life in Greek. It's an Austin-based company that certifies those of us who are really interested in epigenetics to actually coach around epigenetics. And not only is Carri an expert in the nutrition and health aspect, but she also is specialized in the endocannabinoid system. And she has a deep understanding as well about the ancestral aspect of our DNA and that part of what is happening so that we can clear and become our highest expression. So grateful to have her here today. Welcome, Carri. And then, of course, in addition, we have the incredible Geraldine Orozco, who I just had the opportunity to connect with, I think just a month or two ago, Scott, when you had her on the show. I was on as a guest that night, and Geraldine began speaking, and I'm going, who is this woman? I need to know her. And just blown away by, what she knows intuitively about DNA as a clinical psychotherapist and epigenetic psychotherapist. Geraldine, I hope I said that correctly. So thank you so much for being here. And we can't wait to hear you also bring your expertise around this topic tonight.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm excited about meeting Carrie, Geraldine, every time she's been on the show, or I've even watched her on Portal to Ascension.
Mhm.
She is truly a very wise soul. So we're really blessed to have you with us, Geraldine. Thank you, Moorea, for those wonderful introductions. And we are going to go straight to my co-pilot, our beloved brother Omashar, who always gets us off to a great start with music,
Yes,
opening our
indeed.
show and closing our show as only he can.
Namaste, everybody, and and aloha. And I was wondering why life was such a slog, and now I know. I've been carrying 350 people on my back. Holy smoke! Shoo, 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 shoo. So I am what I am, and this is a song called "What More Can I Be Than What I Am," and hopefully we'll get some clues tonight on how to become completely clear. How What more can I be than what I am? Though it's taken some time to clear these clouds from my eyes. So open your hearts and dance along. I'm thinking it's time to stop that same old song. So hear me now, I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms, and lift her with my dreaming, da-da-da-da, and lift her with my dreaming, da-da-da-da, and lift her with my dreaming. So don't try to hold me to what I was. I've traveled through time to see this day arise. The love that I am is here for you. So open the door and let the sun shine in. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms, and lift her with my dreaming. Da-da-da-da, and lift her with my dreaming. Da-da-da-da, and lift her with my dreaming. Da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da. So open your heart and dance along. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms, and lift her with my dreaming. Da-da-da-da, and lift her with my dreaming. Da-da-da-da, and lift her with my dreaming. Da-da-da-da. What more can I be than what I am? What more can we be?
What a perfect song for the topic today. Great choice. Great choice, brother. Thank
I
you.
don't choose them. They choose me.
It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So I am actually attending a conference today, but I wanted to get us off to a good start. I'm going to leave you all in the capable hands of Moorea and Omashar and Geraldine and Carri. But I did want to offer one thought. You'll notice in the title, I added while honoring our ancestors. And it is true that we carry the trauma of our ancestors. But I also just always want to remind people that we are leading incredibly blessed lives. And we're leading these blessed lives of incredible abundance, incredible freedom because of our ancestors that crossed the plains, that crossed the oceans, that worked 3 jobs, that fought in the wars, who could never imagine a place like Whole Foods Market where you could walk in and have all that we can eat. And so I believe that it's our job to pay it back. They didn't have the skills or the tools that we have. They didn't have epigenetic understanding or compassionate communication or yoga or any of the spiritual tools really that we have. So we pay it back by learning how to honor our ancestors, by healing those wounds, by evolving, taking the freedom that they've provided us and the abundance they provided us. So I just wanted to put that in there as my big thought. And with that, I am going to turn it over to my dear friend and our host for the evening, Moorea.
Thank you, Scott. And I couldn't have said it more eloquently what you just shared. So let's all twinkle Scott as he exits our evening as well. We're going to send you some love and just enjoy this time with this sacred family that you have with you tonight. And we're just so grateful that you host the show, that you're so committed. And, you know, you were like the master multitasker. And like I mentioned before everyone came on, just he makes things happen. So thank you for setting us up for such a beautiful call and gathering here tonight. Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So as your co-host this evening, I just think we should just dive right into the topic. And we are going to be bringing on Carri Bailey. Carri Bailey and I have known each other just a little over a year. And it was about a year ago, she came to me through the company that we were both are certified through. And the way she presented with the extreme amount of detail and also passion and like care for this topic just radiated through the Zoom meeting. And so I just knew I had to know her. And now it's turned into a beautiful opportunity that we get to work together and support each other. And she has some incredible insight to bring in this evening about this ancestral transgenerational epigenetic topic. So let's go ahead and bring you on, Carri. And we're going to go ahead and pin you here so you can share a little bit more about yourself, your journey, and open us up for the evening on this topic.
Hello, I'm honored to be here. I have a passion for epigenetics, and when I heard that we were doing honoring our ancestors, I thought, oh yes, transgenerational epigenetics, one of my favorite topics, something that really started studying about 15 years ago when it was more of a theory than an accepted scientific belief. Scientists used to, and when you passed on, to your offspring, there was a clear slate and they just started over. And now we know that that's not the case, that, generations before us set, I like to look at it this way, that our ancestors whisper their wisdom and experience to us through epigenetics. And that is truly the adaptation that brings us to where we are right now. And, we talked a little bit about the trauma. And sometimes we can say, oh, well, we have higher cortisol levels because our ancestors went through genocide. But, they can also be protective. And we breeze over that. We're handed so much through immunity from our relatives and ancestors. And, we pay that forward into future generations. I just always like to think that, when I was just an egg inside my mother, my epigenetics was programmed by my great-great-grandmother, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother. And, as a fetus, the eggs inside of me as a fetus for my children were being programmed by them as well. And it's just exciting to know now that we have this knowledge, we're equipped with this knowledge going forward, that we know that what we're doing right now, the way that we're living in alignment with our epigenetics, is actually making a better future for our children and our children's children. And I just think that's super exciting. And I was doing a little bit of research before I came on, and I saw a new study, and I thought it's just so interesting. It was about worker bees versus queen bees. And, genetically, those bees are identical. Their hard genetics are exactly the same, but their operating system, their epigenetics, if you will, almost light switches that turn on various parts on or off of their genetics, is actually determined by the type of nutrition that they're giving. Worker bees are given a diluted royal jelly. It's less nutritious as compared to queen bees, who are given the full nutritious royal jelly. And that study carries over into humans. If we are not providing our bodies at an early stage and throughout our lives with the most nutritious, the most in alignment with our epigenetics food, then we're actually turning on genes that might not be optimal for us. So by being able to know what we need, which we can do with epigenetic testing, we can give ourselves exactly what we need going forward, and we can bring into alignment our epigenetics with our current place in this world. And I think that that's what our ancestors want for us, is for us to thrive and for us to live optimally. And that just excites me.
Amazing, Carri. That sounds so interesting about just the queen bees and and the worker bees and the difference. So I find that fascinating, and it just really is a great example for how we operate as humans ourselves, and how we can be, we can upregulate our genes, downregulate our genes based on how we give ourselves nutrition and the thoughts we think, and so much more. So
absolutely.
And why don't you go ahead and just share too? I mean, we talked a little bit about, a deeper dive into this the other day, where we were talking about even culturally, the type of background we have culturally. Do you want to speak to that a little bit? And I think I saw Mark is in the house, who I know has a very personal story about this too, that we'd love to bring on later to talk about, with his father being a survivor of the Holocaust.
Oh, yes.
So how that's passed down into his expression and his life. So if you could speak to that a few minutes, and then I think we'll go ahead and bring Geraldine on to add to all this.
Absolutely. Yeah, ultimately, in our past and with our ancestors, lots of people did not have ideal situations. There were genocides, the Holocaust, slavery. All of these things have imprinted on our epigenetics. And there was a study done with mothers that survived the Holocaust and then gave birth to the babies that they carried during the Holocaust. And they looked at the epigenetics of those children, and they found that they had different metabolisms than we would have, that they actually were programmed to need less food. So their metabolisms were very slow, and they had higher cortisol levels, and they actually wound up having obesity, because even if they were consuming such a low amount of calories, their bodies were told, this is how you have to be able to survive. And, when you look at that, and even, with slavery, We have higher cortisol levels within that community. We have, dopamine issues that can lead to addiction. We see a lot of that within the endocannabinoid system, with the genetics within the endocannabinoid system. When I'm interpreting those genetics, there's specific studies that say, if you are an African American, it is different. It is not an ideal polymorphism because of that transgenerational imprinting, that tragedy, that trauma that has happened. And I mean, the first time I read about all this, I just sat there and cried, and I thought, oh my gosh, we really expect that everyone from every cultural background should always be just the same, and we all have the same things going on, and we don't. It is different. And I feel like learning about that epigenetics, it brings an awakening and an awareness to our fellow man, so that we can understand where people are coming from. And we don't expect that everyone is the same, because we're not. We're all unique. And, with those things, those traumas, there are positives that come from that. Whereas we deal with stress better if you have lived transgenerationally with all of that trauma. In today's time, you can deal with stress better. Some of those genes are expressing. So, I don't like to talk about the negative aspect of it. I think there is certainly an awareness, and always we should acknowledge all of that, but always know that we can shift those epigenetics into an optimal expression. And I think another exciting thing is that, I don't know if everyone knows, but when we're part of a community, when we come together and we have these conversations, it actually upregulates our genetics, so that right now we're all expressing our genetics better than we were before we got here.
Wow, Carri, that's amazing that when we come together in unity like this,
yep,
it's a shift within all of us. I mean, it is just the human heart grid coming together, and how there is that electric connection between all of us. And when we do that, how collectively and in a collaborative way, we are able to share ideas, come together, be greater together than we are alone.
Absolutely.
So,
yep.
so
we're healing the community right now. And I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, when you were sharing that too, it just always brings me back to knowing what our DNA says about us and what we can do to turn on and turn off genes helps us assign meaning to the choices we make, whether it's the food we eat, the kind of exercise we do, changing beliefs. And like we even talked about earlier this week in our meeting, a new biological understanding of ourselves. Yes. So it's so powerful. So thank you so much for your beautiful words, so eloquently said. And Omashar, let's go ahead and bring on our beautiful guest, Geraldine. And we'll go ahead and put Geraldine's bio in the chat. And Geraldine, what do you have to say about all this? And just bring your divine wisdom, because I know so much of it is downloaded from the divine and coming through you to help people step into their highest expression. We're just so grateful to have you here.
Oh, it is such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. And what an amazing and incredibly important conversation to be having now, as DNA and the future of DNA is literally changing as we speak in our society. So the more that we learn and we understand how we are affected by our environment and the way that it functions, it empowers us to understand not only our food choices, our emotional choices, but my perspective is, as a soul, as you incarnate into this physical experience, what is it that makes it so difficult for you to break certain patterns? Because those are the things that, for all of us, those of you that are seekers here on the call, are trying to break certain patterns to make major life changes, to expand, to become more expansive, more loving. And in addition to these epigenetic, side effects that are physical, emotional, your diet, there's a large element of the emotional aspect that is incredibly impactful in every part of our life. So I'm just going to really quickly share my screen here. I do have a teeny tiny little presentation that I want to share with you, just to give you some images. I'm very visual, so it just really helps me to have like lots of visuals. So let me just share with you here, just really quick overview on what is epigenetics, just to be clear. Epigenetics is talking about all of the things that we do. We're eating, exercises, our mindset, our emotional states, our environment, toxins in our environment that are affecting the protein writing process. Now, what is the protein writing process? The protein writing is essentially what makes up this physical system, all of the complex systems of this body in order for this body to function. And we have thousands of cells that are designed specifically to create the areas of our bodies that work together, okay? But here's the interesting thing about this. We have 144 genes, but only from 144 genes, only 28,000 of those genes are actually writing the protein that make up our physical body. Okay, this is really huge. So 2% is writing the protein that makes up our physical body. So what's the rest of that doing? And this is what scientists usually refer to as or we used to, because now that's changing with modern understanding of epigenetics and of our DNA and our genome, is dark DNA or junk DNA. And that junk DNA basically was kind of looked at as something that isn't that important, because it's not really, we can't map out how that information directly affects the physical body. Well, now what we are finding out is that we have an entire network. There's an intelligence network of how information and data functions in this physical body. And it really has to do with the morphogenetic field, the field that is the instruction manual that essentially tells all of those cells and proteins to finish writing a finger up until this point here. Okay, the finger is measured at this length, and all the little cells are programmed to finish writing the finger up until here with all of its complexities. So the intelligence and the self-organizing order of this system, this biochemical, bioelectrical organism that we call our physical body, is just profound. Okay, so we essentially are these oscillating systems. Even your cell, this is your cell that is oscillating to create a vibrational frequency that creates a toroidal field that then creates this network, this holographic network that puts your entire system together. Okay, so when this network occurs, it's through quantum non-locality that we create signaled brain waves that are intercommunicating with the body. Now, how does this data now affect? Let's talk about the epigenetic aspect of it. Now, epigenetics, it's been scientifically proven now with little mice that trauma can be transferred down 20 generations. Okay, so what happened to mom and dad, great grandparents, generations back, is still affecting. So what does that mean? In what way does it affect? One of my favorite examples is the smokers, right? People that have smoked, essentially the generations that are born after that have more resistance to drugs and to effect of nicotine, for example. Okay, and the way that these genes are expressed, by the way, will depend on the environment in a small amount. But also I want to mention that it's not only so simple about the environment. So not just the mom and dad. Our child will express different genes, because every single cell of our body is programmed through the mitochondria. The mitochondria is an aggregate copy of the before, passed down through the maternal lineage. Okay, so that means that we can actually map out the world's history, and this is really exciting. This is a graph that's been done of European history that's been passed down through the genes by studying mitochondria, okay? So what this helps us understand is that we are related. Just 2,000 years ago, me and you have a relative in common. Me and you and I that are here on this call right now. So that means that we kind of have an origin point, and this ancestral collection of data that is being passed down to us affects subconscious mind programs, because those programs are inherited two ways. One, little tubes that pass this information down through RNA, which are inserted into the sperm, and then when united with the egg, create this union of data. Okay, just to simplify that. But there's also another element that in the womb, when we are in the gestation process, we are also inheriting programs. Okay, so that is passed down through something called cytosine, which is then inherited afterwards. Okay, so this is important because it means that not only our DNA is affecting who we are, but as we grow up, as we develop, especially the first 7 years of our life, we are forming the core programs that are building and the building blocks for our emotions. So when we talk about ancestral programs, the key is to understand which one of these genes are we applying. And a beautiful thing that I want to kind of leave with, and we can talk more about this, but what I've noticed working with thousands of people, I guess up until this point now, is that the way that we pass down information, every new generation that comes into the bloodline is so beautifully equipped and designed to expand on the older programs. So in other words, every soul that come in is, it doesn't come in by chance, and it doesn't come in a way that it's weakened in its ability to overcome whatever trauma it's inherited into, it's born into, okay? And that's really important for us to understand. That's the self-organizing intelligence of the universe that allows every soul to incarnate into a family at a higher octave than the generation before, because it brings in mental, emotional, physical, and then interdimensional, which are encoded in our morphogenetic field, tools in order to help it progress and evolve the gene pool at a larger impact. So I will stop there. That's kind of like my biggest message, and I can break that down at any point.
Wow, Geraldine, that just blows my mind when I hear you speak about this on such a high level, but it all makes sense, and you bring so much truth to the topic. So thank you so much. I just wanted to share Reverend Jeffrey Colbert to everyone. Geraldine is incredible. So we really see you, and we see your gift and your ability. And, I think it'd be fun for our audience to hear a little bit about how you came to step into this work and a little bit about your journey. I think that would also be something we'd love to hear from Carri as well. So if you could share that, because I think it's important to hear how we've gotten to this place, because it becomes such a huge part of who we are and what we do and what we're here to do, to serve and to help others step into their highest expression.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I became a clinical hypnotherapist first as a result of my contact experience. My contact experience shattered my paradigm because I didn't believe in interdimensionals or aliens, you can say, or extraterrestrials in the way that we perceive them. I now call them interdimensionals. But as a result of these experiences, they really led me to question what was reality, how do we function, and what really asked me to ask the questions about epigenetics is that I discovered that this is something that was intergenerational. And when I started working with more contactees, every single one of my contactees had contact within their families. And it was like they had groups in which they were connecting to. So some people were connecting to Arcturians, let's say. They kept seeing blue beings and they would have different names, but this was also inherited. So the question was, when these families, like in my family, we didn't have any of these conversations about these beings ever until I came public with my experience. How is it possible that this information passes down and it affects us in such a powerful, profound way that shifts our paradigms? And most of us, we don't share this kind of spiritual opening with each other because it's very personal. And of course, we have a lot of judgments and ideas. But these are the questions that led me to research about consciousness and about epigenetics and what is being passed down, how it's being passed down. But in addition to that, with psychic abilities that were activated as a result of that contact experience, it helped me to navigate, in a sense, in a way, remote view and travel into these interdimensional realms in my physical body and others in order to understand how this information is passed down and how it expresses itself psychologically and subconsciously. So that's kind of how I came into the work that I'm doing. Yeah.
Wow. And I just know a question came up for me as you were sharing that too. I mean, we always hear about these other worlds as extraterrestrial. So can you explain how you came to seeing it and understanding it as interdimensional so that we can all receive that download as well?
Yeah, that's a big topic, but we'll make it short,
Okay.
because I guess it's a matter of understanding the nature of our reality. You know, when we look down at our finger, we think that, you know, there's just a surface, but if you would zoom into that and magnify it, it's almost like an entire universe is there within your finger. There are terrains, it looks like mountains and valleys, and, you know, down to the cellular molecular level, you begin to understand that matter isn't really exactly what we think it is. It isn't a solid, an absolute solid state. And so when you put that into context, we are essentially existing in multiple dimensions. We are experiencing multiple dimensions simultaneously at every moment. And you can even explain this as when people are, you know, aware of ghosts or beings, or, you know, they see those sequential numbers, for example. We are in a constant intercommunication with our environment that transcends perhaps our logical mind. And it's a symbiotic relationship that we're kind of co-creating reality. So a lot of the experiences that we actually have a tremendous amount of input into these experiences. And I think I build that kind of theory based on working with hundreds of people that are having such specific experiences with interdimensionals, that for example, when I went into the craft, I was activated with these psychic abilities. So that is a shift of every part of my body, and the way that I perceive reality was changed in some way. And the way that you can explain this is that my frequency shifted in a way where now it's almost like you can see another range of light or another range of color. You know, it's almost as if you can see that. So a lot of experiencers have that experience. They activate aspects of themselves that are beyond the normal vision of range. And we have many ways of perceiving things. We have many senses. We have to learn how to utilize all senses. I call them the higher faculties that we have in order to interact in these dimensional planes. So rather than thinking of extraterrestrial, because if you stick to the terrestrial aspect, you have to really take into account the physics of this Earth. And when we see a UFO in the sky, for example, we understand that the way that it moves is beyond our understanding of physics. So we kind of have to begin to formulate another way of looking at these things. Our physics is limited in explaining this. And it's dimensions, portals, and black holes and white holes that we are kind of merging in and out of in a way. So yeah. I hope I made that kind of clear.
Thank you so much. You know, there's so much depth to it. And of course, with your contact experience, you know, your understanding, you know, downloaded the way it probably is just so incredible. And then for you to explain it to all of us and your understanding, thank you so much. So bringing Carri back in as well. Carri, what input do you have on this? Because I mean, this was really interesting to hear from Geraldine. And as we work with DNA and epigenetics, you know, what I find is so fascinating, and the reason the three of us are here together on this call is because we know that this topic of epigenetics is much deeper than just the physicality of our health. And not everyone in the epigenetics world speaks to this level of epigenetics. I mean, there is spiritual epigenetics, transgenerational or ancestral genetics, which we're talking about tonight, and also the genetics of the mind and the subconscious and those belief programs and the habits and behaviors, right? And all those things. So I think that's what makes this such, you know, a multidimensional conversation, is that we know that these are all aspects of the mind, body, and spirit that help us elevate. So do you want to comment on that, Carri? And I know we talk a little bit about neuro-linguistic programming and how we can also support people changing those behaviors and habits. And I also know, Geraldine, you're also a neuro-linguistic practitioner. So do you think that's a great place to take this conversation and just bring in that aspect?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Carrie. I was just agreeing. Please go ahead.
Okay. I find that neurolinguistics, it kind of is the missing link to really bringing together that mind, body, and soul. A lot like Geraldine said, so much of our programming happens within that first 7 years. And, you think about who was telling you all of those things that you took on to be beliefs that then turned into your understanding of the world now and your habits that you have. I growing up was in a very, very overly religious family. And, when I started breaking down my genetics and realizing, wow, a lot of the things that I do, where did they come from? And when I got my practitioner, my certification for neurolinguistics, I said, oh, this is where this came from. So much of these beliefs that I have then turned into behaviors. And, Bruce Lipton says, it's the biology of belief. Your cells are responding to your belief to make that a biological truth within your body. And there was some deprogramming that I had to do to get to where I am today. And, I'm thankful for the neurolinguistics, because now I can see with my clients, I can say, oh, that anxiety, that trauma, let's go back. Let's go back in your timeline. Let's find out where that's rooted. Let's pull out those false beliefs that don't serve you anymore. And let's give you some real beliefs that will serve you going forward, so that we can change your habits and how you live right now. And that's been such a key since I've added that to my coaching. I've always been a spiritual, intuitive. So I always brought that to my coaching in a sense, but now that I can actually go in and pull out those false beliefs from people, I see people thriving in a way that I've never witnessed before. And in 30 days, they're like a different person, and they'll call me and say, what did you do? Like, everything is so much easier. And I say, it's not easier. It's just the way you view it is easier. The task at hand is still the same level of difficulty. It's just that you were derailed and you were in an unresourceful state. So if I can take people and help them learn how to remain in a resourceful state so that they're able to take advantage of the resources in their environment, they're able to communicate better with people, that seems to solve a lot of issues. And, since we know that what we believe and what we feel is how our body responds, then, I think really that reprogramming of your unconscious mind is so key.
Absolutely. Omashar, let's go ahead and bring back up Geraldine too for her comments. Thank you so much, Carrie. And I've seen there's a few comments in the chat too, so we'll bring those up.
And Geraldine, I loved what you just put in the chat there. Maybe you could read that out, something like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone was asking, and let me read the question. I was just typing this note to myself. Mark says, is DNA an interdimensional antenna? Does the junk part of the DNA represent interface into other dimensions? This is actually the primary area and the most exciting part of my work, and what I'm doing now in my own research is creating that link between this information. It is very much functioning like an interdimensional router in which we are essentially storing memory. Okay, it is stored. And an example of that, DNA is holographic. An example of that is children that are born remembering past lives. How they access those memories is in their dream state. There's an incredible story that was on 60 Minutes. I'll try to find it and put it here. But the child remembered everything of the past life and even was reconnected with, it was a pilot, pilot, reconnected with the entire crew, and he remembered and recognized the ex-wife and the partner of the people that were there. Okay, this is a little child at, like, I don't know, 8 years old or something. And it's the same with organ donors, that when we take an organ into our body, the person is having dreams of the life of the person that delivered the organ. Okay, so this is helping us understand, and this is something beyond our understanding of biology. It used to be. Now we're getting it. Now we're getting it, that we store memory in this holographic network. The physical body is a hologram. Even if you remove 80% of your brain, the entire body, the muscle system, the nervous system is recording patterns, release patterns of chemicals. The way that we contract muscles are recorded in the physical body. So, and this is how generationally, as Carri was saying in the beginning, we pass down these traumas and emotions through the chemical responses that we're releasing. That's programmed within us. So even subconsciously, we might not be aware, but we immediately have a response, it becomes mechanical to the trauma triggers that come into our space. So it's really amazing. And so I guess to add to the comment that we made earlier about the neurolinguistic and programming is essentially that we need to learn how to break those programs, and it can be very difficult, essentially because we are retraining our entire organism in order to support a new way of existing. So if we are used to having an environment that is incredibly traumatizing, we, in other words, would have to teach ourselves what love is, what harmony is, what peace is, what patience, compassion, and those things, if we haven't grown up in those environments or even ever felt it. The majority of my clients have never felt unconditional love. Okay, unless it's with a little pet or a dog or a favorite thing that they have. Think about that. How many of you have really experienced unconditional love in your life? So, of course, our parents only love to the level that they know love, and we all do. So we have to kind of teach ourselves, and this is kind of part of what the new human is. The new human is the human that is beginning to educate themselves on this entire ranges of frequencies, emotions, and how to embody those in order to create coherence, in order to create homeostasis in the body, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, in order to become one with the whole. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Thank you so much, Geraldine. And I see Mark even making the comment here too. I think, Mark, you're such a great advocate for this topic because of your own personal experience. Because of your experience, you also recognize these topics in your own personal life, and as you navigate your life and integrate and integrate with other people, even in your work. So he says, when I play music for Alzheimer's patients, it seems like their brains engage in a holographic way. A small part of the brain seems to entrain the rest of the brain to stimulate memories and physical ability and neural pathways. So, Omashar, thank you for bringing up Mark. Mark, we love that you have such a passion for this topic as well, based on your experience. I think it'd be great just to hear from you and maybe share with, the tribe a little bit about your experience, and certainly, engage in this conversation with Carri and Geraldine and I.
Well, it's been a long road. I think that everyone here, when you're a kid, there are maybe things that's outside of the realm of your familial experience, and you start to have this inkling, and if your family's orthodox in some ways or religious, you have this profound motivation within you that you can't really express because it may be suppressed through the family dynamics or school dynamics or church dynamics or whatever. And so when I was working on my doctorate in biochemistry, I was at Northwestern University in the early 80s. And, but I really wanted to be a musician, and it wasn't really part of it. And one day this was early, before all the gene sequencing and all that was automated. So these were drawings. And when I saw this in this class, genetics, I saw this class and I saw the way genes fit together. And then they started to really create the body, to create cells and to create the body, and also create the template for everything that, you experience. That's what DNA does. And I looked at my hands and I said, I have to be a musician. I'm not going to study and get into this and just learn how to just probe and dissect it more and more. I realized what I really wanted to do was take my genetics that I was born with and become a musician. So I was going to push the envelope. And then later on, through life experiences and also moving to California, where you can be as much of a hippie, tree hugger, spiritualist as you want to be, you know, it's safe to begin to express what would be latent spiritual tendencies, because it's, you know, we break through in our own ways. I started to realize the depth of experience, and I started to use my studies of genetics to kind of understand holistically what was going on. And I've always been attracted to instrumental music. I love word music with lyrics, but I just feel like if you can tune in, if you're a person who listens to classical music, or that something is being communicated that doesn't have a story. You don't tell yourself a verbal story, but you get a message that's incredibly profound. You know, just talking about it, you can get goosebumps. If you're one of those people that gets tremendous goosebumps, or you can cry from a piece of music. Now, a lot of times, the music that people hear is part of movies. You know, the Star Wars soundtrack and Princess Leia's theme and all that. It just seems like the wave of emotions that music will release, it's almost, you know, it's like positive adrenaline, you know, like if a bear shows up at your door and you live by Lake Tahoe right now, and a hungry bear is at your door, adrenaline, you know how fast that stuff gets released everywhere all at once. And so music can do the same thing, you know, and I realized, wow, this is healing, and it's healing, and you can tell yourself about it so much, but the words fail, you know, so you have to just get to the point where you begin to experience it through feeling, you know, and the limits of your ability to feel. And then I became a conductor, and I would conduct theaters and shows, and I was seeking, through the experience of running a show and being a conductor and having an audience and having all these people that are trained, and you rehearse every moment of a big show, you rehearse every second 100 times. So you have this bit of information that you assemble in real time, and what you're doing is you're basing that on feeling. You know, you can speed up a phrase, or you can slow down a phrase, or you can play something a little bit quieter for a moment, and everybody just leans in and listens and feels. So, and I think it's just another way of pursuing love, you know? I think that's what it is. And so we have ways of separating ourselves from the experience of love. You know, I'm a thorny intellectual. When I was studying biochemistry, I was totally locked in my left brain, and you can sever. I mean, just imagine the decisions that a lot of people make who work in finance, and they finance oil companies that are going to do a project in Ecuador, and they cut corners, so they let those are all people that are separated from their inherent soul energy, right? And so if you want to hang on to that in this world that we have, it does require commitment. You know, it requires commitment. It requires being in touch. And then after all this experience, I find out that my father, 25 years after he died, I found out that from one of his friends that they actually escaped from the Nazis and lived in the woods for 3 years. And so I was wondering, you know, what part of the makeup of this kind of eccentric but willful person that I turned out to be is directly attributable to the genetics, to the epigenetics of that experience, you know? And then, so I've been learning about that lately, and I've had some conversations with Moorea, about that. And, and then I think about reparation for slavery. Okay, so you can't ever possibly make up for reparations for slavery. You can't possibly physically give people back the wealth that was taken from generations of families. But I think that if the consciousness of reparation, if that's articulated and that becomes discussed in a society, all that pent up anger that's manifesting through white supremacy now and all that energy, that psychic energy could be released. It would just go away. Like you said, one of your clients says, everything's working out. I think that, when I hear Marianne Williamson speak, she's trying to get us to release that energy. And we know that it's locked up epigenetically, because I can't imagine, as bad as it is to be the victim of slavery, or to actually recognize that in your family were slave owners, and if you're a sentient being, you would almost have to work to sever that part of consciousness within yourself, And so I think that we're so close to it, and that's the reason why it's just bubbling up to the surface right now, So I think that epigenetics, if it can be discussed, and the thing that I like is that it's rational, yes, science can prove these things, but the benefits can be great societal, great interpersonal benefits. And boy, I went on, didn't I? I didn't know that was coming out, but that's how I feel at the moment. So,
Mark, you have so much to say about this, and it's all just such a great personal experience that you bring, and you bring so much to this community. So we appreciate that. And we just want to thank you for your contribution to this topic, because you experience it firsthand, being, a descendant of a Holocaust survivor.
Mm-hmm.
How incredible. Yeah.
One last thing to interject is that coming from a Catholic background and all that, I wound up playing the piano at spiritualist churches, right? And I worked with some amazing virtuoso mediums, not who it seemed like they were reading part of your makeup, and maybe that's their DNA. We do know through those studies that DNA can be communicated, or thoughts are communicated through time and space. And so some of the things that I was experiencing, so my thing that one man's junk is another man's treasure, when they say junk DNA, is that the most arrogant statement that a materialist, dogmatic scientist could possibly make? It's like, we don't understand it, so why don't we just, it's pretty funny at times, and that's the reason why I'm glad that I did not stay in the laboratory. Okay, now I'm done.
Thank you so much. And I know Geraldine has some comments, and I know, Carri, this brings up the conversation that you and I had about slavery the other day too. So Geraldine, why don't you go first? Let's put the spotlight on Geraldine and Carri to comment on this topic.
Yeah, I absolutely love what Mark was saying. And, I'm so excited to hear him talk about the example of playing the sounds of the music, which triggered the memory. So one of the amazing things that I came across in my research, I found Dr. Peter Garayev, he was a Russian researcher that was kind of like the one that brought wave genetics into the forefront of learning about epigenetics and what does it mean, that DNA, the language of DNA. And, when we trace back DNA to the origin, we actually look at the way that, we have coded DNA in a certain way, kind of like computer code. And when you translate that computer code, it has syntax, meaning it has meaning. It has a certain meaning. It creates a certain meaning. So when you transfix the words of this, like they do in gene editing, which has now become very popular, you can change the output of this information. And essentially, we're talking about vibrational frequency, because each one of those syntax, meaning, each piece of that code essentially creates a vibrational frequency. And we are beings of vibrational frequency. Our entire organism has a vibrational signature. When I look at people's bodies, we tune into a certain color that takes up most of your body. Your multidimensional body takes up a certain color. And that is telling me your vibrational frequency about your subconscious thoughts, minds, and programs. So wave genetics is really important because this is how DNA reprogramming, we have proven to actually work, that by creating certain wave, sound, words, just the way we get triggered by people's reactions and responses, we can also heal the body. The body can heal, the body can transform in the way that it is holding on to genetic data, the way that it's expressing that information. And it's something that goes into the subliminal subconscious mind and adjusts the vibrational frequency signature of the entire body. So in the example that Mark gave, it was just amazing to hear that, because that's something that we see in working with clients every day. So I'll give it to Carri.
Mm-hmm. Geraldine, you mentioned gene editing. I'm curious if you, I'm concerned with gene editing through CRISPR. I feel that it's not ideal because we're taking little splices of those frequencies and just shoving something else in there. So, you know, it can have such huge effects on just more than that little, you know, chromosome area.
Absolutely. I mean, we are infants in our understanding of, first of all, how the morphogenetic field functions, because these are, now that we understand the morphogenetic field, we understand that this is a deeply interconnected system.
Absolutely.
And that there is a communication between the protein writing and then the field that is providing instructions. So when you mess and you move something out of that sequence that is intelligently programmed, you won't understand the side effects of that until possibly the next generation, or something will happen in your function. And I think a good example of that is kind of what we went through in the past couple of years, you know, with new pharmaceuticals introduced into society.
Yeah.
We are now seeing the side effects of that because our systems are such a delicate balance, you know.
Absolutely. And, you know, there is research too, that if you cut out a certain part, your genetics will just adapt and they'll fold right over and they'll just skip right over that. So, you know, ideally, we could hope that that would be beneficial, especially for, you know, people who have introduced those experimental pharmaceuticals. And we do know that pharmaceuticals and medications are something that actually is known to change our epigenetics. And so much so that it's actually not studied. For most of the medications, if you open up the big packets and you read it, it will say that they did not study that at all and how that it affects your genes, because obviously it would be scary information that people would probably not want to be involved with those medications.
Exactly.
And I think it's so interesting because for me, that's how I came into epigenetics. I have a very fast cytochrome. So medications don't work for me. So my whole entire life, whatever medication I had to take, you could basically open up that big paper and say, you know, negative side effects, and that would be everything that would happen to me, because my cytochrome is so fast, then it breaks down the medications very sloppy. So for instance, when I had my second son, who is now well into his 20s, I had to have a C-section, and they gave me an epidural because they do that when you have a C-section. I had no choice. And I went unconscious for 4 hours. And it wasn't until I had genetic testing done, they said, oh, geez, you know, you can never have opiates. Your body breaks those down into morphine, and then you will overdose quickly. So when you went unconscious, you were actually overdosing from an epidural. So I thought, okay, like I need to know more about this. I had never heard of the cytochrome 450. And I quickly learned that many of our cytochrome genetics break down our toxins in our environment, our medications, cannabinoids are broken down that way. So in a sense, that cytochrome, which was so dangerous in this industrial world, was actually beneficial because I break down toxins very quickly. Things come in and then they're gone from me. So it is protective in a sense, but also very dangerous on the other side. I have to be very careful about medications. And when I started learning about all of that, I was like, I have to know more. What else do they break down? And then I started bringing in clients who were having issues with medications. And they say, every time I take something, I have a negative side effect, or, you know, and everybody attributes it just to the MTHFR genetic, but really there's so much more to it. So I wanted to make that point, that sometimes we think that things are very negative within the industrial world, but really they're protective. They say if we were, you know, stuck on an island, an isolated island, and you had the MTHFR gene, you would actually be like the canary in the coal mine. You would know right away if something was not good for your community and your society, because you would be the first person to react to it. So people would, you know, if they don't have that, they can continually take things in and you don't know the danger of that. So even though MTHFR is attributed to lower detox, poor methylation, and methylation is super important because that's how we age gracefully. And methylation is also, again, obviously part of that passed down through our lineage, things that we've gotten from all of our ancestors. So I just, you know, that topic is what brought me into epigenetics. And I love to be able to open people's eyes to, hey, it's not you. Because I went to doctors before and they're like, oh, there just must be something wrong with you. And that's why medications don't work. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess my epigenetics, if you consider that to be wrong with me, then maybe that's the case. But I had this new understanding after that, that I really needed to avoid those medications. I needed to go out of my way to make sure that even though doctors were like, hey, you should take this, you know what, that's not for me. And that put me on a path of using holistics, using homeopathics, learning about all of those things intently, because that is my medicine. If I have allergies, I use homeopathics. If I have a headache, I use homeopathics. Or, you know, a cannabinoid. I don't turn to pharmaceuticals at any point in time, which I think is something that I love to be able to share that with my clients and kind of pull them out of that web of big pharma. So, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit just about, you know, what can we do to live better, to align ourselves epigenetically with this world that we live in right now. And, you know, so much of it, it's free, you know. I love to be able to take your genetics and really deep dive in and show you exactly what is right for you. But at the core of it, you know, so much of it is avoiding endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors are one of the biggest things that actually affect our epigenetic expression. And those are chemicals. They're in our deodorant, they're in our soaps, they're all over the place. So I love to be able to help people live cleaner and a more organic life. And I always try to, you know, I've tried like every product, so I can kind of steer them in the right direction, which is helpful. Avoiding your unnecessary medicines, turning more towards herbs, turning more towards natural things that are placed in nature for us to use. Sunshine. We're told for decades, stay out of the sun. The sun is so bad for you. Like, no, the sun is excellent for you. Get out there 2 hours after sunrise and 2 hours before sunset. That's going to give you all of that great, important sunlight. Our fresh air, fresh water. Unfortunately, I live in New Jersey, so we are not known for our clean water. I have actually not had clean water in my town for 3 years. So I am all about filtering everything, air, water, whatever I put into my body, I am filtering that. I filter my water for cooking. So important. And a good HEPA filters all over. You know, get that junk out of your air. No matter where we are, we can always have cleaner air. Unfortunately, that's not a priority for our government. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. A positive attitude and beliefs, how we view stress. If you view stress as, well, it's going to kill me, guess what? It's going to kill you. But if you're like, hey, stress is my response, that my body is gearing up to deal with whatever issue it is that I need to deal with, great. That is the way to view stress. It is the way you will live long if you view stress that way. Having a positive attitude, having beliefs that serve us. And like Geraldine said, unconditional love. Like, you have to love yourself unconditionally. So many times we're like, if and when I do this, and then I can have that, and then I'll be happy those are conditions. We have to love ourselves and love everyone else, unconditionally. And that is so important for how our epigenetics are expressing. Obviously, movement, exercise. When we exercise, we upregulate 7,000 genes within our body to an optimal performance. And it's something so simple. And really, when you think about it, we live in a world where people are sedentary. We don't have to go out there and grow our vegetables. We're not out there turning fields. We're not out there being physical because we have these wonderful things called computers, and they do so much work for us. So really, epigenetically, we're set to really move to be healthy, and our society has stopped that. So just basic movement will help you express your genetics better. Improving your methylation is super important. And methylation is just how your genetics are read, whether it's too much gene knowledge or too little. And methylation is just basically tags that are put on your genes to help you be healthier, age better. Methylation will turn on and turn off genes. So this is where genetic testing comes in, because with genetic testing, we can actually look at how you methylate. Are you an over-methylator? Are you an under-methylator? And a lot of that is just forms of supplements that you would take for your body to be able to use them right. So it's something so simple, but yet so important. And then really, one thing that is close to my heart is balancing your gut health. Your body signals to your epigenetics through your gut. Even your endocannabinoid system, which runs all of the biological process in your body, are controlled through your endocannabinoid system, which is a neuromodulatory system. So it's, programming and telling your body how to do everything it does. If you do not have good gut health, then you're not getting those proper signals. So, your fermented foods, your fiber, super duper important. I always have some other recommendations that I give to my clients based on their unique needs. But these are all just so important. It helps us live as best we can, and living our best life is really, to me, where we honor our ancestors and honor our prodigy.
Can you all believe the knowledge that Carri has regarding this topic? Isn't it incredible? I see Mark giving you some sparkles. Thank you so much. And I just want to do a quick share screen. It's been such an honor and pleasure to partner with Carri, and we welcome all of you to go ahead and register at humanami.com for the free epigenetic mini course. If you were enjoying what she's saying and want to understand on a deeper level, go ahead and click here. We have the link in the bio or the chat right now, and you can go ahead and just enter your information, and we'll go ahead and send you the Zoom link. It's going to be on Saturday morning, May 20th. So a couple weeks from now, you can save the date. And if you can't make it, there will be a replay as well. And you can also go ahead and follow us at, it's just on my name, on my screen as well, at Humanami Health, both on Facebook and Instagram. So thank you, Carri. There's so many ways we can optimize through epigenetics. And I know you've just touched the surface And what I'd also like to do right now is bring Geraldine back on to go ahead and share with us a little bit about how she sees us optimizing our DNA. So let's go ahead and bring Geraldine back on.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was amazing. Absolutely incredible. So important. I also, something that you said really made me think about this, that, illnesses, the root cause of illnesses, actually there is a major somatic root of illnesses, right? So when we experience illness, it is the body in disharmony, dis-ease, right? We come out of balance. And so what happens when we're not in balance, we actually activate what is in our DNA. And of course, in the DNA can be any number of illnesses and things that we're holding on to in our body. So our lifestyle, I guess the primary function of that is the emotional body. Because when we are not aware of our emotions, when we don't know how to master the emotional body, this is the charge, not only bioelectrically, biochemically, that begins to produce a series of side effects in the body that trigger either inflammation and illness in the body or health and harmony in the body. So I think one of the areas that I really focus on is learning how to create balance and harmony psychologically, physically, and spiritually. And I think that that's really, really important, because being sick is not the norm. In our society, I don't watch TV, but some people watch TV, and every single minute, not only are they talking to you about an illness, but they're talking to you about side effects of these pharmaceuticals. But, that creates a major program. And also, if you pay attention to the themes of TV shows, films, live shows, it is all about someone having cancer, someone being ill, and we have to understand that the pharmaceutical industry is so powerful that there's major lobbying and connections between creating social engineering of the debilitation of society, the immunity of society as a whole, and we aren't taught how do we build a spiritual, psychological immunity, and what does it mean to be healthy? Is it normal to be healthy? We have very little, unfortunately, examples of that, and the examples of those that we do see are very hollow, in that there isn't a clear understanding of the causes of illness. And so my area of research and work as a epigenetic psychotherapist is to understand, first of all, what are the patterns that we're running? Because what creates our reality is the subconscious mind, okay? And that subconscious mind programs how our nervous system is going to react, how our muscles contract in stress, how much stress we're embodying. And these are patterns that are learned by our parents, whether they were there or not, the person that played the role of the parent, and the parent that is missing also plays a tremendous role. So let's say father wasn't there, mother wasn't there, plays a tremendous role in how you perceive and how you embody important aspects of ourselves. Our physical body is actually self-organized in such a powerful way. The right side of the body represents the masculine, the left is the feminine. So when any of these and core subconscious programs are out of balance, it creates illness in the body. And what I discover is that people have more complications on the side of the body that is weakened in that subconscious perception, okay? When one of those aspects of ourself is out of balance, it creates problems in that part of the body, okay? So for example, they'll have this shoulder pain here on the right side, and they always get hurt, or they always have a problem in their tummy on this right side. So, it's very interesting. And there is an entire study that I focus on, looking at every single part of the body tells us something. So if this part of your body hurts, there's a subconscious program here. And we have networks of energy and information in our body through the meridian system that allows us to understand very specific parts of the body trigger pain, suffering, certain beliefs, okay? So when we understand those roots, we can deprogram that. We deprogram those core beliefs. And what happens is that the person heals. People, I've worked with people with cancer, people with terminal illnesses that have reversed them in a matter of months, rebalancing and creating harmony in their organism, and most importantly, in the spiritual realm. Because here's another thing. Remember that as a soul, you incarnate in this body in order to experience. And that experience is helping you evolve, not only you, but your entire ancestral lineage. So there is an opportunity for every human, when they become aware of the patterns that they're repeating that are causing them suffering and their children, their next generation suffering, there's a powerful, powerful thing there that you become, that you can choose to change that. You break that pattern and you begin to create healing in yourself. And when we heal, we are so deeply interconnected in the network through the morphogenetic field that we begin to heal our children. In fact, a quick example is that a mother-child relationship that was broken, when the mother began to do some heavy shadow work, all of a sudden the child started to change their life. Okay, they started to want to be more healthy. They started to want to do so. We are interconnected chemically. We have cells. The child has cells of the mother. We are intercommunicating in these networks through quantum non-locality. So as one organism, when you elevate your vibrational frequency and you heal the collective. And, we also have this incredible thing about star children, indigo children, the different waves of children that are coming in. Remember that you participate in a specific vibrational frequency. Your signature is in alignment with the evolution of this entire universe. So you are encoded and equipped with the tools to transcend the traumas that you've experienced in your life. And when you apply them, you pull forward and in the entire human race. Okay, so my primary work is to, I guess, teach people and to show them how to do that. And actually, funny enough, before I was even invited to come to this talk today, I actually enlisted a little course on the cellular healing of ancestral trauma. So you guys are welcome to join me. It's in June, I think. Yeah, June. I think June the 10th. If you guys want to join me for that, you guys are welcome. It's a workshop, and we do get into deep, deep shadow work to try to break and work with those programs that are the ones that are hard to break.
So Geraldine, would you like to share screen and bring something up that people can see?
Oh yeah, sure, I can do that. Let me see.
I can put too. Is it GeraldineOrozco.com? We can put that in the chat, Geraldine.
Yeah, I actually have. Let me grab the link and I can put it in there. And then let me just open this, and I'm going to share my screen.
That class sounds incredible. I want to come. I want to be there.
Yeah, so cellular healing of ancestral trauma and interdimensional blockages. So I'll be explaining the entire morphogenetic field, the layers of the body, how we store the information, and how we can deprogram it. So you guys can register, and you're welcome to join me. And it's just obviously not a coincidence that we had this conversation today. But yeah, this is something that I'm really, really passionate about, I guess you can say. And yeah.
No coincidence at all. Thank you. Also, it says bayareameditation.com. So thank you for adding that into the chat so everyone can get registered. I'm going to be saving this as well. And I see, Carri, do you have your hand up?
I do.
I didn't want to interrupt.
I was just so delighted.
And I have a comment too. So let's just have a beautiful roundabout conversation to bring this all together. Go ahead.
I was just so delighted to hear her say, the awareness begets the healing. And it really is, whether it's a spiritual awareness or, our subconscious awareness or our physical awareness, healing that stored emotion within our body, it is all awareness. And I just wanted to reiterate that because I think it is so important. I wanted to also say that I love that you don't watch TV, turn the TV off. Fear kills. It is chronic fear and worry. It activates your HPA axis, and that results in chronic stress hormones, which will lead to depression. So if you think about exactly what you said, every time we turn on the TV, this is terrible, and the predictive programming that's happening, because in reality, corporations own all of the advertisements that you see. And the beauty is that when you have that awareness, when that healing begins, you see that different. You know, I will hear that and say, ooh, look at that pejorative language. You know, is that underneath of that, like some sort of vibrational tones that are happening? And it's like, wow, I guess I always knew it was there, but I didn't see it. And as that healing happens, we see it. And I have spent probably the last 3 years telling everybody, please turn off the TV. That fear, that stress, 90% of doctor appointments, the basis of those doctor appointments is stress. So if we can relieve that fear, we get rid of that stress. And that is where wellness exists. And, you know, if you are of European descent, your family lived through the Black Plague, or you wouldn't be here. Your body has the ability to heal itself. That immunity has been passed to you, and that is why we are here today. Whether it is the Spanish flu, whether it is the Black Plague, there are lists of things that people lived through without experimental medicine, without having to take those things. They were able to turn to nutrition. They were able to use herbs. They were able to just somehow survive because of that human spirit of survival. And the fear and the stress is destroying that. And the isolation that has come over the last 3 years has just been so detrimental to people because, again, without that community, without that understanding, without us all coming together, we're downregulating our genes. We're sitting there scared and in fear and high stress levels and cortisol levels that are out of the roof and, you know, totally isolated. And then we're like, oh, I don't know why I'm sick. I know why you're sick, and I can help you not be sick. So let's talk, let's work this out, because you have a whole life to live. You are here for a purpose, and we are all here today to help people find that purpose and reconnect with our ancestors, with the future, and to live the life that they are supposed to live without all of that noise, all of that feedback coming in from, I call it ridiculousness, because I hate to even speak in negative terms, because to me that changes my unconscious. So when something is a little bit off, I'm just like, this feedback is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because that's like a neutral way for me to say it. But like, literally, let me help you get rid of that ridiculous feedback. And you guys too, because that's what we're all here for.
Yeah. Carri, amazing. And I mean, we just feel your heart when you speak so from your heart. I mean, you can tell, can everyone just tell how much this is Mark is sending sparkles. We know that this is what you live, breathe, eat.
I do. I
care
do.
about humanity in such a huge way. As you know, and we didn't get into it too much, but Carri's work as an energy healer and shaman as well. I mean, she brings all this together. So I just wanted to comment also with Ayada, you put in the chat a little bit about your experience with your kids. And I thought that was just a really great example of practical things that we can do. And so she says, when I was raising my kids early on, I left the city and moved to a small island where we could drink pure water from wells, breathe fresh air, swim in natural waters, eat healthy and natural food, and move naturally, living off the grid much of that time. And she had that great fortune to study briefly in the 70s with Dr. John Christopher, who I think some of us know, and you know, as a major foremost herbalist. So, you know, just like you mentioned herbs, Carri, you know, turning to herbs for health issues.
Absolutely.
Again, you know, they got to avoid being in the doctor offices over all those years. So absolutely incredible. And, you know, one thing that happened to me as I started to understand how we heal generations back is in 2020, I underwent a surgery, and I knew that I had to do some emotional healing as a healer myself. Prior to that surgery, 48 hours out, I was out in the desert in Palm Springs area, and I was doing healing, and I saw 4 generations back. And I actually had the opportunity in my lifetime to have a great-great-grandmother when I was a young child. So I always have that image of that picture of my family, with, all those generations in one photo. But when that healing happened, they actually showed me, well, you actually healed 7. And how that can be timeless and can shift the timelines was so powerful for me. So before I ever even dived into understanding the science that's proven that we carry all these generations back, that's what Spirit showed me. So I just remember that being my first experience with this, and just knowing that, Carri and Geraldine bringing these gifts forward to help heal. I mean, that's really what we're all here to do, is to heal and to optimize and to be our limitless expression. So with that said, Geraldine, I'd love to know if you have any final and closing thoughts. And then we're going to go ahead to Omashar to do our closing song this evening, as we all come together to have gratitude in this evening. Go ahead, Geraldine.
Thank you so much. First of all, Carri, I love you. You're like amazing. I love everything you're talking about. Completely resonate.
I love you too.
Yeah, you're just amazing. And Moorea, thank you so much for sharing that. That is so true. And, I just wanted to mention, like with clinical hypnotherapy, like working with my hypnotherapy clients, when I take them to past lives, and we didn't talk about this whole aspect, but, they heal parts of themselves and illnesses when they resolve things that have been unresolved for many lifetimes. That's another thing that's like really, really interesting. But people can, everything from a flu to like a tumor in the body to, I have lots of examples, epilepsy, for example, by healing problems that they've had in other lifetimes. Okay, so of course, there's many other parts that have to be put into place also. It's not just that, but it's really powerful how we can shift our lives. So it's been an honor to be here, and you guys are incredible. And I hope that with this conversation today, you take into consideration how you can change your life, and more importantly, the power that we have. We create our reality. The human is sovereign in that it can utilize its wisdom, its intuition, the integration of the mind, body, and soul in order to master this little vessel, the body, and have the most optimum life possible. So yeah, that's all. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad to have both of you so much. And that said, let's bring up Omashar. Omashar, we are just so grateful that we have you to bring in.
Yeah, time to digest.
Tonight.
It's unbelievable. Just hearing the information from Geraldine and Carri, and it's like, holy smoke, there is hope for us. And so I'm going to play a little a song called "Love Will Lead Us," and then we can do a little wrap up after that. Feel free to spotlight anybody who moves. If anybody's still moving, Moorea, that'd be great.
Happy to. And we can all digest this incredible information that just all got downloaded to our DNA tonight, right?
All right. So here we go.
Okay.
Has come, centering my soul, amazing things abound, and now we've reached our goal, to celebrate your liberation, shine your love throughout the world, consciousness precedes true being. I am here, I will light the way. Our love will lead us on. Our love will clear the way. Our love will show the world. and new, free to be at last. So stand up and be true, and celebrate your liberation. Shine your love throughout the world, 'cause consciousness precedes true being. I am here, I am now, we will light the way. Our love will lead us on. Our love will clear the way. Our love will show the world. Oh, there's nothing in the way. Now we've reached our goal, and celebrate your liberation. Shine your love throughout the world. Consciousness precedes true being. I am here, I am now, I will light the way. Our love will lead us on. Our love will clear the way. Our love will show the world. There's nothing in the way.
Wow, Omashar.
You rock, Eleanor. Ian.
You always just bring us back to our hearts and just help us digest all
Thank
this
you.
incredible
I know
information.
I often Scott will ask, so what do you think of all of the information you've given? And I have no thoughts, because it's all coming into my psyche from out, and maybe in about an hour or two I'll have some thoughts about it, but the thoughts just get in the way, and I've been fed so deeply tonight. Thank you, Geraldine and Carri and Moorea. Holy smoke, right?
We all did. And I think we've just, hit the surface on this topic. There's so much
Microdose,
to dive
absolutely.
into. Such a deep topic. And I love that there's opportunities for everyone here at the Awakening World to learn more, whether they're coming to Geraldine's course on ancestral healing and the activation in June, or where Carri and I are going to be taking another deep dive into this topic on May 20th. So we'll go ahead and share those links one more time as well in the chat.
So I'm going to quickly just bring up the poster for this weekend.
Please
Scott,
do.
I know he's looking over our shoulders, and
Yes.
we have an amazing celebration this weekend of 500 and X amount of shows that Scott has put on, initially with Deborah Giusti, and let me see if I can pull this thing up. How do I screen share? There it is.
Okay.
And yeah, can you see that? There it is.
There it is.
So on Saturday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 10 a.m. we're going to have a long all-nighter. So be ready to be up with your blankies and your pillows and your and your kombucha and your Guinness, and we'll take you for a nice ride through the last 3 years. We have some amazing guests. So anyway, that's my plug for this, and back to you, Krista. Moorea, excuse me.
Okay,
Thank
you, Omashar. Again, we're just so grateful to have you here. Your dedication to this incredible tribe and show is just so beautiful to watch and be part of.
Yes, and I think the dedication is within everybody on this call, and all of us working with light around the world. The dedication is to the awakening, and so it's kind of like a no-brainer, really. It's like, where else do you want to be but awakening? So yeah.
Well, let's all send our love to Omashar, and we know we're going to see you this weekend again with your beautiful music and the way that you just hold so much presence and love for this tribe. We're so grateful.
Thank you so much. And I think we just said, oh yes, Scott just said something. Great gratitude to Geraldine and Carri.
Yes. Any final thoughts, Geraldine and Carri, before we sign off and say goodnight?
No, that was amazing. Beautiful music, Omashar, as always. I love your music. And thank you very much, Moorea and Carri. It was such an honor to be here, and Scott for hosting. Thank you. For everybody here, much love to you.
Yeah, I just say thank you for having me. It was an honor to share energy with all of you and to speak from my heart. And I just say awaken and heal.
Absolutely. And thank you, Scott, for making this possible. And we'll all sign off to this beautiful tribe, all of us coming together and us raising our vibration and activating our DNA by coming together. That's what we did tonight. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Much love.
Namaste, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.